Right, joining Susan and myself, we've got David. We've also got, of course, here with us...
Angie.
Angie Lau, and of course Anil Gupta.
Yeah.
He's from INSEAD. And let's start off with India, because of course Manmohan Singh is no longer got a majority. Now tell me something. We've got an election coming up next year.
Yes.
They seemingly are muddling through. Is this going to be more paralysis, policy paralysis for the next year and a half? And, you know, is India just losing time at the moment?
I don't think it will be a paralysis in the sense that, you know, the government started to move forward around September, October last year after the change of finance minister. So I think the question really is, at what speed does the government continue the reforms? And I think the likelihood of the government falling before early next year is pretty low. So, you know, it may actually last out its full term. But given the weakening of support, you know, the DMK pulling out, perhaps, you know, we'll know for sure next week whether they come back in or stay out. That the government is a little more shaky, or the coalition is a little more shaky than it was. But I think, you know, it may be difficult to undertake major reforms like land acquisition or the goods and services tax. It's, you know, those things may get stalled. But at the same time, you know, just there are a number of things on the implementation front. You know, so it's not just policies, but policy implementation that the government can do without having to go to the parliament.
Well, what is the effect on the Indian economy? I mean, does this shave off GDP, given that the interest rates were cut for a second time? What happens to India?
Right. The interest rate cuts are helpful, but really the big problems in India are the non-monetary supply constraints.
Because they don't need to, I mean, monetary policy is useless in this environment, because it's all about structural change which is required. Because at the end of the day, all it does is choke off corporate India when you've got high interest rates like this. It does nothing to solve the inflation problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I mean, that's what the RBI governor, he said, that, you know, and of course, I mean, a 0.25% cut is good because it sends the right signal. But in terms of its impact on the economy, the effect is relatively small. You know, what that really requires actually is, you know, the policy reforms.
What about in terms of sentiment for FDI? You've got all these push for reforms, then you have this political instability once again really being an obstacle here. And how does that ensure foreign direct, you know, investment to come through right at the time when India needs it most?
Right. I think, I mean, you know, actually, if you look at FII flows, not FDI flows, the FII flows have remained pretty good. You know, because of course the Indian stock market is you know, pretty down. It's below 19,000, the Sensex right now. And again, you know, if you look at in general the sentiment for reform, you know, whether we look at on the BJP side or the Congress party side, the sentiment for reform is there. So there is the shakiness of the government, but you know, it's not like one side is pulling back from reform and the other side is advocating reform. So I think what, you know, and if you look at just what the analysts in India are saying, that they are still saying that, you know, the year will probably end with the Sensex about 15–16% higher from what it is now. And I think so the FII is betting on that. Just yesterday, the government was able to you know, get some movement in the parliament on various bills. They're talking about the likelihood that despite the shakiness, they might be able to get bills passed regarding insurance and pension.